Dr. Evan Carter, a meticulous historian known for his composure, found himself facing the imposing structure of St. Mary's Asylum. The building loomed before him, its once grand facade now marred by years of neglect and decay. Vines crept up the walls, and the windows, long shattered, stared back at him like hollow eyes. An unsettling silence hung in the air, a stark contrast to the bustling city beyond its overgrown grounds. The mist that clung to the earth seemed to muffle any sound, creating an eerie stillness that made Dr. Carter's heart race. The once grand institution, now abandoned and decaying, was the subject of grim local legends. Stories of mistreatment and suffering had turned the asylum into a place of fear and mystery, a relic of a darker time in the city's history. The city's historical society had tasked Dr. Carter with retrieving any salvageable medical records, a mission that filled him with a sense of foreboding. He knew that these documents could shed light on the lives of those who had been confined within these walls, but he also feared what he might uncover. He wasn't sure what awaited him within those crumbling walls, but he sensed that some stories are best left buried. The air was thick with the weight of the past, and every step he took seemed to echo with the whispers of forgotten souls. Dr. Carter cautiously approached the main entrance. Its heavy iron gates rusted and sealed by time. The gates creaked ominously as he pushed them open, revealing a darkened corridor that seemed to stretch on forever. He noticed the faded inscription above, St. Mary's Asylum for the Mentally Infirm, a chilling reminder of the building's troubled past. The words seemed to mock him, a testament to the suffering that had taken place within these walls. As he stepped across the threshold, he felt a cold shiver crawl down his spine, a sense of unseen eyes watching his every move. The darkness seemed to close in around him, and he could almost hear the faint echoes of cries and whispers from the past. The air inside was heavy with the stench of decay and the weight of forgotten suffering. Each room he passed seemed to tell a story of its own, a silent witness to the pain and despair that had once filled this place. Dr. Carter knew that his task was just beginning, and the true challenge lay ahead. The asylum's interior was a labyrinth of darkened corridors and crumbling walls. Dust lay thick on every surface, evidence of years of neglect. The air hung thick and heavy, filled with the musty smell of decay and the faint, lingering scent of disinfectant. It was as if time itself had stopped within these walls, trapping the echoes of past suffering. Dr. Carter moved cautiously through the dilapidated structure, his footsteps echoing ominously in the silence. He examined the remnants of a bygone era, rusted medical instruments scattered on a tray, a solitary shoe beneath a collapsed bed frame, and a wall adorned with faded children's drawings, their cheerful colors now obscured by grime and decay. Each object whispered a tale of despair, of lives tragically lived and forgotten within these very walls. Dr. Carter finally located the asylum's records room, its door hanging precariously from one hinge. Inside, countless files lay scattered across the floor, victims of time and gravity. Covered in dust, they represented the lost lives entrusted to St. Mary's, each page a window into their suffering. He wondered about the stories held within these forgotten files, the whispers of tormented souls reaching out from the past. As he sifted through the decaying documents, a particular file caught his eye, Patient 1379, Daniel Whitlock. The name sent a shiver down his spine. Local legends spoke of a patient, Daniel, who haunted the asylum after a tragic incident. Intrigued and apprehensive, Dr. Carter carefully opened the file, his heart pounding with a nameless dread. The file described Daniel Whitlock as a gifted pianist tormented by auditory hallucinations. His talent was undeniable, yet his mind was a battleground of haunting sounds and whispers that no one else could hear. He would spend hours playing a melancholic melody, a tune so sorrowful that it seemed to echo the very depths of his tortured soul. This melody didn't just stay with him, it haunted the dreams of the hospital staff, creating an atmosphere of unease and dread. The file ended abruptly, with no explanation for his fate. It was as if Daniel had simply vanished, leaving behind only questions and a lingering sense of fear. As Dr. Carter delved deeper into the file, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He noticed a shift in the atmosphere, a palpable tension that seemed to grow with each passing moment. A low hum seemed to vibrate through the air, barely audible, but undeniably present. It was as if the very walls were whispering secrets. The hum grew louder, more insistent, filling the empty hallways with an eerie resonance. It was the tune described in the file, the same haunting melody that had plagued Daniel Whitlock. The notes seemed to float through the air, carrying with them a sense of sorrow and despair. The melody was unmistakable, a ghostly echo of Daniel's tortured soul. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind slammed the door shut, plunging the room into darkness. The sudden change was jarring, as if the building itself was reacting to the haunting tune. The lights flickered out, leaving Dr. Carter in complete darkness. Dr. Carter fumbled for his flashlight, his heart pounding in his chest. The darkness seemed to press in on him, thick and suffocating. His heart raced as he finally found the flashlight, its beam cutting through the oppressive darkness. As a faint light pierced the darkness, he could have sworn he saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway, a tall, gaunt silhouette that vanished as quickly as it appeared. The figure was there one moment and gone the next, leaving Dr. Carter questioning his own senses. The experience left him shaken, the haunting melody still echoing in his mind as he stood alone in the darkened hallway. Section 5. Ward of Whispers. Panic welled up inside Dr. Carter, urging him to flee, but his scientific curiosity held him captive. The melody grew louder, guiding him deeper into the asylum's labyrinthine corridors. It drew him towards Ward C, the ward where Daniel Whitlock had been housed. The air grew noticeably colder as he approached the ward, the scent of decay intensifying. He paused at the entrance, hesitant to cross the threshold into the unknown. The humming melody reached a crescendo, and Dr. Carter felt an icy breath on the back of his neck. He turned slowly, his heart pounding in his ears, but he was met with only emptiness. Section 6. Specter of Fear. Taking a deep breath, Dr. Carter stepped into Ward C. The room was dimly lit by a single flickering light bulb, casting long, dancing shadows across the walls. Rows of empty beds lined the room, each one a chilling reminder of the ward's former occupants. The air hung heavy with a palpable sense of dread, and the temperature dropped noticeably. Then, in the center of the room, a figure materialized. It was Daniel Whitlock, his gaunt face locked in a silent scream, his translucent fingers gliding over an invisible piano, the source of the haunting melody. His eyes, filled with a chilling emptiness, met Dr. Carter's, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Section 7. Flight into Uncertainty. Terror lent speed to Dr. Carter's steps as he stumbled back, his rational mind overwhelmed by the impossible. He fled blindly, his only thought escape. The spectral melody pursued him, echoing through the decaying halls, urging him onward. Each echoing footstep was a hammer blow to his sanity, each turn in the labyrinthine hallways a desperate gamble. Finally, he burst through the asylum's main entrance, the heavy doors no match for his desperate flight. He didn't stop running until he reached the relative safety of his car, the engine roaring to life, a symphony compared to the haunting melody that still rang in his ears. As he drove away, he cast one last glance at the decaying facade of St. Mary's Asylum, the silhouette of a lone figure in the window, a chilling final image. Section 8. Lingering Echoes. The experience at St. Mary's Asylum left an indelible mark on Dr. Carter. The memories of that night were etched deeply into his mind, haunting him in the quiet moments of his life. He tried to rationalize his encounter, but the haunting melody, the chilling cold, and the spectral image of Daniel Whitlock continued to plague his thoughts. Each time he closed his eyes, the scenes replayed vividly. The ghostly figure of Daniel Whitlock, with his sorrowful eyes and mournful presence, seemed to follow him everywhere. It was as if the spirit had latched onto his very soul. The city demolished the asylum a year later, hoping to erase the dark history that lingered within its walls. Replacing the crumbling structure with an empty lot, they thought it would bring peace. But the land itself seemed to hold on to the memories. Yet, whenever Dr. Carter passed by, he couldn't shake the feeling of unseen eyes watching him. The sensation was unnerving, as if the spirits of the past were still present. He often found himself looking over his shoulder, expecting to see a shadowy figure lurking just out of sight. The paranoia grew with each passing day, and sometimes, if the wind was just right, he could swear he heard it, the faint, mournful melody of a piano drifting through the air like a ghostly whisper. The melody was a chilling reminder of the haunting of St. Mary's Asylum, a tune that seemed to echo through time itself. The experience served as a constant reminder that some mysteries are best left buried, some stories better left untold. The asylum's dark secrets were not meant to be uncovered. He never spoke of his experience, keeping the terrifying memories locked away in the recesses of his mind. But the memory of that night and the chilling melody remained, a haunting echo in the corridors of his mind. He often wondered if he would ever find peace, or if the spirits of St. Mary's would forever haunt him. The trauma of that night was a scar on his soul, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead, and the chilling melody remained, a constant, eerie presence in his life, a chilling echo in the corridors of his mind, forever reminding him of the night he would never forget. Henry Thorne, a creature of the night, much like the owls that hooted softly in the distance. He found solace in the shadows, in the quiet spaces the day forgot. The night was his refuge, a time when the world slowed down and the noise faded away. His haven? The derelict Thorne Crossing Station, a place that mirrored his own sense of abandonment, a place time had left behind, forgotten by the bustling world outside. The station was a skeleton of its former self, a ghostly reminder of what once was. Paint peeled from its walls like scabs, revealing the raw, weathered wood beneath. Rust ate at the iron, staining it the color of dried blood, a testament to the passage of time. The clock face above the ticket booth stared blindly, its hands frozen at the hour the world had moved on, a silent witness to the station's decay. Weeds, thick and gnarled, snaked through the cracked asphalt, reclaiming the earth with a relentless grip. The air hung heavy with the scent of dampness and decay, a pungent reminder of the station's long abandonment. A silence, thick and absolute, ruled this forgotten corner of the world, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant hoot of an owl. Yet within this desolate embrace, Henry found a strange comfort, a sense of belonging that eluded him elsewhere, a sanctuary from the cacophony of life, a place where he could hear his own thoughts. Here, under the watchful gaze of the moon, he felt most alive, most himself. The night, with all its mysteries and silences, was his true home. Thorne Crossing Station, a name whispered on the wind, a place cloaked in shadow and sorrow. Locals spoke of a tragedy, etched into the very fabric of the station. 1963, a night etched in the memory of the town. The last train to depart Thorne Crossing never reached its destination. It derailed, leaving behind a trail of twisted metal and broken bodies, a scar on the land that refused to heal. Since then, the station lay dormant, a graveyard of iron and dreams. But the silence, some said, was deceptive, for in the stillness of the night, the past stirred. Whispers of strange occurrences clung to the station like cobwebs, shadows moving in the darkness, the mournful wail of a distant train whistle, and the chilling laughter of children, heard only in the dead of night. The night was unusually still. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Henry sat on the platform, his gaze lost in the labyrinth of tracks that stretched before him like silver ribbons in the moonlight. He felt a shift in the air, a prickling sensation at the back of his neck. The silence, once comforting, now pressed in on him, heavy and expectant. A low rumble started in the distance, a rhythmic chugging that sent a shiver down Henry's spine. It couldn't be. Not here. Not after all these years. The rumble grew louder, closer. The ground vibrated beneath him. Fear, cold and sharp, clawed at his throat. He was rooted to the spot, unable to move, unable to breathe. A ghostly plume of white smoke announced its arrival. The train emerged from the darkness, its headlight cutting through the night like a malevolent eye. A specter of steam and shadows, it hissed and groaned, its metal bones creaking under the weight of its unseen cargo. This was not the sleek, modern engine of today. This was a relic from a bygone era, a hulking steam engine, its iron hide blackened by time and tragedy. The windows were dark, impenetrable, yet Henry could sense eyes watching him from within. The train screeched to a halt before him, its brakes screaming in protest. The air filled with the scent of coal smoke and something else, something ancient and unnaturally cold. Henry stood frozen, his heart pounding against his ribs. This was madness, impossible. Yet here it was, defying logic and reason. Section 5. A ticket to nowhere. The train door clanged open. A figure emerged from the swirling smoke, his silhouette framed against the flickering light from within. He was tall and skeletal, clad in a conductor's uniform that seemed to cling to his emaciated frame. His face was obscured by the shadows of his peaked cap. In his gloved hand he held a single ticket. The paper was yellowed with age, the lettering faded but still legible. Return. "Ticket, sir?" the figure rasped, his voice a dry whisper, like the rustle of dead leaves. Henry, paralyzed by fear and fascination, could only stare. The conductor extended his hand, the ticket a stark white against his deathly pale skin. "This train," the conductor continued, his voice echoing in the stillness, "doesn't wait for the undecided." Section 6. Faces lost in time. The conductor's words seemed to break the spell that held Henry captive. His voice, though soft, carried an authority that was impossible to ignore. He reached out, his fingers brushing against the icy coldness of the conductor's glove. It felt as if he was touching a fragment of the past, a relic from another time. The ticket was pressed into his hand, its texture rough and worn, as if it had been handled by countless others before him. He hesitated for a moment, a single question echoing in his mind. What choice did he have? The weight of the decision seemed to press down on him. With a deep breath, Henry boarded the train, stepping into the unknown. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the very air was thick with history. The interior was dimly lit by flickering gas lamps, casting long, distorted shadows on the plush, velvet seats. The atmosphere was both eerie and strangely comforting. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, and something else, a sense of lingering memories, as if the walls themselves whispered secrets of the past. A faint, sweet aroma, like that of wilting lilies, wafted through the carriage, adding to the surreal atmosphere. The carriage was far from empty. Shadows moved and shifted, revealing the presence of others. Seated along the length of the train were figures, men, women, children. Their presence was palpable, yet they seemed distant, as if caught between worlds. Dressed in the fashion of a bygone era, their clothes spoke of times long past, of stories untold. Their faces, pale and gaunt, were locked in expressions of melancholy and resignation. It was as if they were waiting for something or someone to release them from their eternal journey. Section 7. The revelation at the end of the line. The train lurched forward, picking up speed. The scenery outside was a blur of darkness, punctuated by the occasional flickering lamppost that seemed to signal their descent into some subterranean realm. Time lost all meaning. Hours, minutes, seconds, all blended into a single, unending journey. Henry sat amidst the ghostly passengers, a silent observer to their spectral sorrow. As the train finally slowed, a sense of dread washed over Henry. The train was pulling into a station shrouded in an ethereal mist. A sign, barely visible through the fog, read, "Forgotten Souls." And then it hit him. The faces of his fellow passengers, the date on the newspaper clipping, the haunting familiarity of it all. These were the victims of the 1963 train crash, and he, Henry Thorne, was somehow connected to them. Section 8. Forever Waiting. The train came to a stop, its brakes screeching in the stillness of the night. The sound echoed through the empty station, a haunting reminder of journeys past. The conductor, his skeletal finger pointing towards the station, uttered a single word: home. His voice was a whisper, barely audible, yet it carried the weight of countless souls. Henry stepped off the train and onto the platform, his footfalls echoing in the eerie silence. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown, a path he had to walk alone. The other passengers remained on board, their eyes following him with a mixture of envy and pity. They were bound to their seats, unable to join him on his quest. As the train pulled away, the station began to fade, the mist swallowing it whole. The world around Henry dissolved, leaving him in a realm between reality and dreams. Henry was left alone, standing on the precipice of oblivion. And then he understood. This place was a threshold, a gateway to something beyond. This wasn't his final destination, it was his beginning. A place where lost souls found their purpose, where the past and future intertwined. Locals still speak of the solitary figure who haunts Thorne Crossing Station. They say he appears out of the mist, a guardian of the forgotten. A man who appears each night as the clock strikes midnight, his eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for a train that will never come. His vigil is eternal, a testament to his unyielding hope. waiting to ferry the souls lost in time. Each night he stands ready, a beacon for those who have lost their way, waiting to fulfill his destiny as the gatekeeper of forgotten souls. His purpose clear, his resolve unwavering, he remains forever waiting.